Yeah, I'm Jackson. I have zero experience with carpentry.
I studied at a school for historic preservation in Boston and learned about how things were built, 250 years ago.
There's a long way to go. I'm nowhere near the top. Not that I thought I was, but there's so much more to do out there.
Welcome back to the Passion for Craft podcast. We are here talking about a couple of things today. I want to make sure that we hit everything. Richard, we're going to be leaning on you a lot this episode.
Uh-oh.
Well, I think it's because you do these things well. So the idea that I had was set apart. Like, what are some things that new builders can do to be set apart? What do they need to focus on? What are some best practices? And then I guess as a part of it, how do you find a good subcontractor and what do you look for? I'm sure you've found some bad subcontractors. So we just want to know their names and like what they're, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's the general idea, and there's a lot there. And I think I'm just going to check off the things that I feel like we've hit on when we get to them. Cause I feel like there's a lot of, it's a really great topic. Like whoever came up with it was a great idea. But I think I just want to make sure we hit all those things.
Did you break your arm patting yourself on the back?
No, it still works fine. But yeah, so I guess now I'm turning to you guys.
My perspective on being set apart, the first thing that comes to mind is be clean, be groomed, smell good, be like someone who, if someone is, you're going to go in someone's house, they're going to be comfortable with you going in their house, be professional,
totally, be
on time, all those cliche things. I take those very seriously, and I think it makes a big, big difference. I have this saying that I've said before is if you can care, you're halfway there. Mm-hmm. If you can care about what you're doing, you can develop the skills. Yeah. You could develop the craft skills or whatever it may be, the management skills, the networking skills or whatever. But if you don't care, people are going to see through it.
It's an interesting question, and your answer is interesting. What's the number one? If you're going to say three attributes of a great builder, what would they be?
Number one would be education, caring, and then respectfulness. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Because I think what they know, how they act, and then really what they know and how they act.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. Of course, I'm not really spending a lot of time with builders and have a lot of experience. I'm just coming at it from my main experience of working day to day, day in, day out with people's who I'm actually working on their house. That's a big deal. Yeah. Being clean, caring about stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
what would you say? I don't know. Sorry to cut you off.
No.
If you are the builder.
That's what I was going to say. You're working for builders. What are some things that, are those the things you look for?
Well, I haven't worked for any builders other than Brent. I really haven't.
Yeah. And
maybe one here and there. He's kind of clean.
Okay.
No. I don't really, I don't know because I haven't went out and tried to get hired. You've been keeping us busy, so I haven't had to do that, and I don't know what I would really look for.
We need to come back to that because you should work for other builders.
You just fired me.
We're running into a thing where trim carpentry is we're in foundation, we're in demo, we're in other parts of the job, so there may be a 6-month period. 3-month
You're going
to
make me go back to YouTube.
There, where you might have to go out there and do that. The
a bunch of our fans just got really excited. Richard's going to release more YouTube videos.
I'm sitting there listening to that and going, that's really interesting. And I know what you mean. I know the thing. The problem is, the pesky price, challenge that I think probably a lot of builders struggle with, what do I charge? What's fair? What how do I do this? So that, because I suspect when you're starting out, price is a big deal. right? And you one, you don't price yourself high enough, but two, you're trying to sell that job, and you're anxious that, did I leave money on the table, or is the guy laughing at me, or am I too expensive? What do I do? And so, the idea of showing up on time and caring and, taking a shower seems really low down that list when you're, just trying to get a job.
Yeah.
And so, I think that the competency, right, is number one. You got to know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And you got to, you got to know what you're doing. I mean, I still feel like in my business, my job is to educate. Not just my people, myself too, right? I'm always trying to learn more. I watch build show videos. I am trying to learn more about build science. I don't know, everything about that. I'm trying to learn more about classicism. I'm trying to learn about, reading business books on leadership. And so, you're always trying to get better. So competency is, I think, has to be number one.
I guess I was coming at it from, and I probably misled you from our previous conversation before we were recording, but from my perspective, as someone who's going to be hired by a builder, I don't have a lot of experience negotiating with builders or working with builders. So I can't really speak to builders necessarily, but I can speak to someone in my position. What's going to make me appeal to a builder is all those things I listed, cleanliness, not only of hygiene, but job site, tools, vehicles, music.
One reason I want you to go work for other builders is because, basically you're not having to get competitive with us, right? We're because we're not a price point builder, right? That isn't our deal. Mm-hmm. I remember Gary Katz's story that they're gonna install that trim. The guy says, "Here, you can install the trim," and they go, "Okay, well, let's go look back and we'll bid it." And the guy's like, "No, that's not how this is going to work." You remember that?
I'm telling you what you're going to be
paying. Here's what we're going to pay for you to do that.
I remember that.
And they were like, "Oh, you're right." And so it wasn't a situation where they're going to have to win the bid. You need to be, this other builder we were talking about. I want you to go do that because I want you to get practice, putting your numbers together, going to him, presenting those numbers, justifying those numbers, and, walking him through the timeline and how you're going to do that. And then if and when you screw up, how you manage that and how they manage that with you. And
or how I manage their screw ups,
100%. Right. And so, but I think that when we talk about just the general concept of what it takes to be a good builder, right? Isn't that the question?
Yeah.
Set apart.
Yeah, be set apart.
I think it has to be competency. And how do you get competency? Experience. How do you get experience? You got to do a bunch of jobs. And you got to fail on jobs. You got to struggle through that and fight through a bunch of the different challenges of running a business, right? Mm-hmm. A partner that takes your money and screws you, right? Clients that screw you unfairly, and they will. Mm-hmm. I know there's a big famous YouTuber or Instagram guy. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to. It's not my information. He got screwed by a client and just totally threw him off his game. He stopped working for himself. He went to work for somebody else. But a client that he had trusted and he was excited about building, excited about doing all this stuff, and this client just ripped him off. And he had no recourse because he had trusted the guy, didn't have a good contract in place, and so then you look at the things like Dan Parrish was here. He says the most important thing that he did was hire a CFO. Right, that was his important thing. So, there's landmines along the way that can totally, knock you out of business. Yeah. Like did that guy. And so, and that's where the experience comes. Like you actually don't have a good enough contract, right? Your contract is terrible, right? You're going to get taken advantage of. What contract? Well, you should have a contract, right? You know, you should have a relationship with a banker. You should have, you should have a line of credit. Do you have a line of credit?
Oh, I have a credit card. I mean, is that what you're asking?
What do you mean a line of credit?
Like with companies like Teague? And
No. That's a what would be that's a credit line. You need money, okay, to help you manage cash flow. Remember that customer didn't pay us, right? Mm-hmm. How did you manage that cash flow? Okay, if you didn't have a backup level of cash that would allow you to survive, pay your guys until you got paid, right? That's what's called cash flow, and you should have a relationship with a banker so that he says, you know what, you've got a line of credit with us, okay? And the line of credit is, I think ours is $250,000, right? It's some amount of money. So yours should be, 20 or 50 or some amount of money that allows you to get through those, times when something happens. Life happens, right? As Dave Ramsey says. Again, I keep hitting. It feels like I keep hitting and bringing up all these financial issues, and it's because finances ends up being
a big part of
really,
it.
Really important piece of it.
Budget and schedule.
And so if you're talking about what sets you apart, I'm laying out some of the financial pieces of the thing just to make sure you get through. My deal when I was starting out is I'm artist guy, right? And so I'm pretty. I want to draw. I want to do. I want to. Historically accurate, architecturally correct. Was my deal. I neglected the financial side. I didn't have a line of credit. I didn't have a good contract. I had a partner that screwed me. Right? All these different things.
You were excited about all the fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. All the beauty things, right? And not about the practical things.
The boring stuff.
Yeah. So. Anyway, I was talking. Who was I talking to this about? I was basically talking to a guy the other day who's also on Instagram, who I was also helping out, and telling him that he needed to surround himself because he's thinking about trying to hire a key hire. And I was like, you need to surround yourself with someone who's going to complement your weaknesses, right? Yeah. And so, what was really helpful for me and what's helpful today is my controller is manages all that stuff that I'm not really good at and that I don't have time for. It's not my skill set. And I was doing a shape class at our church. And one of the analogies we talk about doing something you're comfortable and good at is you pick up a pen and put it in your left hand or your opposite hand and try to sign your name, right? And so you're struggling. You can do it, but it takes a long time, and you're trying to figure it out. You put it in your right hand, sign your name. You don't even think about it, right? It's just there it is. So.
Neither looked good.
Two of those things is the point is that, right? I think the point. It's just you should be doing things that you're comfortable doing, right? You shouldn't be doing those things that cause you to wait. I got to think really hard to do. And that's the way finances are for me. I can do it, but it takes me longer than it needs to take me, and it's not where my skill set should be. That's not the most benefit to the company. So.
Totally.
You have to understand yourself. You have to know yourself to know, how you're going to be complicated. Your time at K-Live, you're not an administration guy, so you surround yourself with people who help you with administration. Yeah. And so, right? And so
definitely.
But it's also back to your point. I remember my brother-in-law before he got into finances. He was in a roofing company. He was doing roofing because he had worked for a big commercial roofer, went out on his own. And he was winning these jobs. He was winning Wendy's and all these different things that he was getting stuff done. I was like, how are you doing this? How are you winning these jobs against all these big companies? He goes, Brent, 80% of it, some percent, 70, 80, 90% is showing up and doing what you say you're going to do. And there's a lot of truth to that.
Yes.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Communication is huge too. Yeah. It's the biggest thing. I will never go back on that.
Showing up,
communication is everything.
Doing what you said you were going to do, right? And you think about the challenges and the problems of our deal, and so much of it comes from people who let you down.
Mm-hmm.
We got a glass supplier on a job right now who is absolutely, it's a dumpster fire. This guy, they couldn't. I went through the list of things. You're like, why did you hire these people? And they actually have a long reputation and time here, but they've done something in their office, and the commercial side bought out the residential side, from what we understand, and something happened. Some person who used to make sure everything got done right is gone, and because nearly everything they send out is wrong. Nearly everything.
And they're sending out like tens of thousands of dollars of wrong stuff.
They're losing so much money because we're not having to pay for it.
Oh yeah.
But it's crazy. And so, but that company has let us down and made us look bad to the homeowner, and to the point the homeowner's like, "Who are these guys? What's going on?" They never get into my business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're to the point where they're like questioning us, And
where'd you find these guys?
Where'd you find it? What are you doing? Do you even know what you're doing? So we've had those people who do that, and that goes back to that 70, 80, 90%. If they showed up and did what they said they were going to do, they would have our next business. They would have our next job, right? And they're not.
Yeah, it makes you look incompetent.
It does.
It's like,
that's why they hired us, just to make sure there weren't problems like this. And
Yeah, because they could have just GC'd their own remodel or something,
So things that are setting new builders apart, we're seeing be clean cut, be professional, know your stuff, competency, lots of experience, and follow through on what you're going to do, what you say you're going to do.
100%.
Anything else? We missing anything there?
Well, so I'm sitting there thinking about the young guy just trying to start out.
Yep.
And he's sitting there looking at, how what he does next, and kind of, how do I start this business? What do I do? And we're basically saying, show up and do what you say you're going to do, and, have experience.
But how does he have experience?
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there going, I guess I would want the builder, as part of that competency is to have experience actually doing the work. It doesn't, because there's a difference between being a builder and having experience being a builder, and actually being a tradesman first before you become a builder. And I would classify that tradesman, like I did trim carpentry before I ended up building stuff, and I was a sub to a lot of builders that are still around that I did work for, as a trim carpenter, and that helped me, one, see a bunch of builders and how they handled work, but also I was learning. I was becoming a trader. You gain an eye for what quality is, and what sells, and all that kind of stuff. So,
and not only that, you also, like, if people hear trim carpentry, they may think you're only dealing with that, but a lot of times you are dealing with, like, plumbing. You're looking at all kinds of things to see where you're going to put your cabinet. You get to see the walls open.
Right.
Especially if you're remodeling. So, yeah, you develop an overall knowledge of the entire structure. You're not just at a saw cutting trim. Right.
I guess I also look at this and I think about there's a lot of knucklehead builders out there with no experience that are building houses. And so there's some of this is, the reality of how you build a house today means that you can build a house without having any experience. And so, because you can get a set of plans and you talk to your friends, and they know a framer, and so you talk to the framer, and the framer knows a concrete guy. The concrete guy, he knows the guy that'll do the clearing, and all of a sudden you've put together 5 or 6 subs, and if you have the bravado to go out there and try it and put it to risk, and in Texas it's not a huge risk right now, you become a builder. But if you're talking about wanting to be one of the best, I don't think that's how you do it. But there are people that do that, and they ultimately become paper contractors. They ultimately just, they're just managing and hiring and scheduling subs. They're, and maybe picking out plans or maybe doing something like that. But I wouldn't even consider that a builder, in the sense that I think we're trying to talk about.
What do you consider, like, the D.R. Hortons and all, like, those kind of guys,
JC
builders, or just, like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, by definition, I think they're builders, but as far as as far as
Skill and execution.
yeah, comparing it to what we do, it's
Child's play.
it's a different it's a different game. It's a completely different model. I mean, yeah, I mean, just and what I've learned about them and seen and understand about how they do their business. They're a widget manufacturer. They're William Levitt said it. He's not a builder. He's a manufacturer, and I think a lot of builders say that, right?
At least he was self-aware of that.
He was. He was. It's just so I wouldn't consider them. Well, I mean, I know production builders, and I know that they build big houses. Their teams are not building their houses, right? I know a CEO of a big building company that did 1,000 houses a year.
Their teams are not building their houses. You're saying their teams are just there to hire subs and manage subs?
He's building entry-level houses, okay? 1,000 houses a year. Big time. He built his personal house. No one from the side that he was building on had anything to do with that. In fact, he hired a high-end custom builder to build his house, right? So the businesses are so separate that this team over here that built all his houses, 1,000 houses, had nothing to do with this stuff over here.
His personal home.
Right?
That tells you something.
It does tell you something. It's D.R. Horton is in Arlington and Fort Worth, and his houses are around Fort Worth, and
he would never live in his own home.
Yeah, he never lived in his own house, right? So, so it's a different thing. I think if you want to be that kind of builder, you're in it to make money. Mm-hmm. You're playing the game to make money, and it's more important how you style and showcase your houses, who your sales team is, than it is the product that you're building, because the product has become a commodity, and people look at a $300,000 or $500,000 house, and they're thinking about their monthly payment. Mm-hmm. They're not thinking about
reselling and all that,
the quality. Mm-hmm.
That makes
the craftsmanship.
I couldn't get into that. Like, I would not be happy doing that. Even if you were making like a killing. Yeah. It's just like that golden handcuffs you were telling about that guy. I see like where he's coming from. You know, it's like, I could sit here and make a lot of money, but I'm not excited about the product. Yeah,
I just can't do it.
It'd be hard to get passionate about something like that, where you're like, hey, I'm really excited to sell you this home.
Did y'all ever see there's this video on YouTube of these Jayco travel trailers where they're assembling the trailer, but they're showing like it's a big giant warehouse, and the guy is like talking to the cameraman, like they're doing a video about it, and he's like, so this is our first station here, the guys are going to do this, that, and the third, and then like they're like assembling this thing fast, and he's like proud of it, but it's a completely crappy product. Like if you look at the comments, like, I can't believe they think this is good. And we have to watch it like after this.
Jayco, wait, what is Jayco?
Jayco makes the little camper hitch, where you put it.
Yeah, okay.
Travel trailer.
Yeah.
A little travel trailer. It's so funny. But that's the kind of thing, like, this guy is excited about it.
Right.
Look how fast they're putting this together, and like cutting vinyl and like putting all this. It's just crazy.
Oh my gosh.
But I couldn't be like, if I did that video, I would just be like, they're putting it together.
Yeah, I wouldn't be showing a video of that, right?
Like, that's what people were saying. Like, I can't believe you're showing this. Like,
because he's coming at it from the perspective of, look how awesome
as a
this
manufacturer,
is.
he's excited about the speed and how he's putting all this stuff together. But
everyone else is
as a consumer, they're like,
I would never buy this.
That's so cheap.
Oh my gosh. So when it comes to hiring out the right people, D.R. Horton's not using the same people that are making his homes. So,
or whoever this guy was. And I'm sure D.R. Horton too.
Yeah, the guy in Arlington or whatever.
There's no way.
But I guess when we're like looking at subcontractors, what makes a good subcontractor? What sets a subcontractor apart? And what are some things to look for? So cleanliness, on time, like all those things.
Yeah, I think I haven't hired subcontractors really.
Right.
I mean, I did a couple of things in my own house, but I I don't know. Like, you would be able to speak more to that because
Well, when you hired those subs at your house, okay, were you looking at price or were you looking at competency?
it was Ashley's dad, my father-in-law's friends. So I didn't, I didn't really look at anything.
Right.
I kind of do everything myself anyways. So I don't have a lot of experience doing that.
Right.
I guess if I had to put myself in your shoes to look at someone like me, I might want to see like a portfolio or a reference or some job, maybe walk a job that I've done.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like you, we know the kind of quality of stuff that you can do, and I think one of the things that's great about you is that you're not afraid of anything, and so there is
What does that mean?
I'm about to explain.
Oh, great.
Sometimes when you show things to people, I think of a cabinet company, and I remember when I first came back and I wanted to build cabinets with inset doors, and the cabinet company kept trying to talk me out of it. You don't want to do that. Where you know this thing moves at all, and you're going to be back here adjusting doors. He goes, I'm not adjusting doors. You're going to sign something that says I don't have to come back and adjust doors.
Yeah.
And so there was this fight, right? That and I talk about it a lot is having to fight for what you want. But the immediate thing was you can't afford that. You're not going to want that. You're not going to, and you don't do that. Right, you're like, okay, great, yeah, let's put it up and figure it out.
Yeah,
and so,
it's been a challenge too with some of this stuff.
Well, and it is challenging, but you know,
The willingness
to attempt and try some of these things, especially working for me, because I'm always asking for the weird and the
yeah,
different.
and what's weird about so Chris, one of your project managers, he's like, you know, we're cutting this brass stuff for this Greek thing. I could not figure it out. You know, I'm sitting here trying to cut it. The brass is pulling up and like it's, you know, the blade is pinching it and all this stuff. But then I call you and you're like, go to your table saw, get a 10-inch blade, around 60 tooth, and just take it slow. And I did that, and it literally was just like, it just worked. I'm like, how do you know that? That's so random. You said you cut brass in North Bennett Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I just got off on that rabbit trail because when he said, like, we're going to be cutting this brass, I got real nervous. I'm like, I don't know how to work with brass, but it's just cutting, you know?
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. Anyways, yeah, the brass was crazy.
So what I'm looking for is competency. Okay, there's that word again. But we'll ask people to build cornices like these things over here, that you know, and there is a patience. Like it's a 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's a 5 steps, right? And if you do the medallions, there's 6.
Yeah.
And so a lot of guys were like, well, I've never done that before, or you know, how am I going to price that? And they get scared, right? And you're like, well, okay, yeah, no, we'll put that up, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a part of it is just saying yes, right? Part of it is just saying I'll do that.
Like a can-do.
Well,
attitude.
I kind of, yeah. I was thinking about this like right before I came here and met you. I was almost ready to just quit doing this altogether. But like I'm to the point now where like if I'm not in a challenging position, like I don't want to be doing that. Mm-hmm. Like I want struggles and I want friction and I want that challenge.
The problem
like I
solving.
don't feel alive if I'm not like struggling against something. You know? It's so weird.
No, totally.
Like I want to be in that position of like this is really hard to do. Yeah. But I don't know if I'd want to do it to the point of like a builder, you know? Like I don't know if I would ever want to do that because
I think you will. I think it'll be a natural progression.
Because it's a lot more fires, a lot less like problems to be solved. It's a lot more like, yes, there are problems to be solved, but also it's like, well, mediation and other stuff like that.
I'm not following.
It's okay.
Well, I feel like for me,
I guess what I mean is like, between a homeowner and a subcontractor, or like your window people, they're messing you guys up. They're making you look bad at the thing. So that's not necessarily like a problem to be solved, but it is in a sense. It's just an interpersonal problem rather than a
how we're gonna do this.
How are we going to do this? But even still, when a homeowner
Yeah.
comes to you and says, "How do I do this?" You still get the, well, I got to figure it out. And
Yeah.
You were just talking out, your thought in your head. You're just talking out loud.
no,
Because you kind of worked it out as you kind of went through there.
no, you asked what is it, and I was explaining what it is.
Oh, I know, but the way you explained it was like, well, it's just do that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What were you talking about?
I was thinking as you were saying that, and you're right, as you played that out live there for us in real time.
Happy to help.
Yeah, I think I like the problems of the task. I don't know if I would like the problems of administration and dealing with this lady and,
Right.
like, I don't know if I want to get into those problems.
Mm-hmm.
I like the problems that I have, like
Yeah.
we talked about me climbing up those stairs. Like it sucks, but I
Right.
kind of like it, honestly. Like
Yeah.
it keeps me in shape,
Yeah. One of my
There's
board
several ways
members,
to look at it.
he's like a fascinating guy to me. He does commercial construction, and so different ball game in a lot of ways. But he explained to me he has nobody in his company other than himself. So he's the only guy running his company, and he just subs out everything.
Oh, okay. I thought he was like doing the work and everything.
No, he doesn't go to
Wow.
jobs, doesn't do any work.
That's
he just has,
there's that.
That's a
world for
strength.
sure.
and he's
It's
like,
not a
yeah, I
strength.
just bid a $500,000 gig, and
It's not
we
a
done in
strength.
9 weeks, and all this
Well,
other
if he's
stuff.
accounting and all that, I mean, I think that's
He is
impressive.
doing all of that stuff. But what do you mean it's not a strength? I guess where's your qualm with the
Because we've
process?
worked for guys like that, and they're a nightmare.
Okay.
Okay, because we're just finishing up a project it's our second job with a guy. We shouldn't have taken it, but he kept throwing more work at us. But his whole game is, I don't have a superintendent, I don't have the things. So because it's a price game for him. So he can go win those jobs, know that he keeps his margin, his overhead, but he's not offering what the other companies are offering.
I see
So the
that,
problems
yeah.
we had on this courthouse were because he hadn't managed the job, and he was trying to blame it on us. And it was just like, dude, you didn't have anybody there. How do you even know?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I heard, I got this thing, and we've got pictures. And no, that's not how it happened. And so I had this knockdown drag out with this guy. And so and it was his game, and that's why I was like, it's not a strength. It's a
Yeah, I can see that.
You're putting everybody else through hell.
Well, here's
because you want zero overhead and you
Right.
want it easy.
Well, I think
It creates all these problems. But
I
look,
see
if
that,
he's
yeah.
doing a tilt wall construction building, then it's not a deal. If
he's
doing
also doing apartments.
Yeah.
He's doing stuff where he can get a crew in there, get them in, get them out, easy, no questions
Yeah.
asked. And then, he bids a lot of the same jobs over and over again.
Yeah.
So
just
he does
imagining.
get, yeah. But, I mean, it's fundamentally different, right, than what we're looking at here. But I did think it was an interesting deal where he's got his group of subs, and he is, like, on a rotation with these guys where he doesn't use some people now because they have messed up in a job, and then,
Yeah, so here's what happens. So he has a problem with the drywall. How does he know he has a problem? Because the painter called and said the drywall isn't right.
Right.
Okay.
This is the guy.
No, this is the scenario I'm making
Oh,
up for
okay.
this thing.
Yeah.
And so he calls the drywall guy and says, "You got to go fix this." The drywall guy doesn't fix it. Takes him off the rotation, right? Because he didn't take he never went and looked at it.
Look,
He never,
there are guys like that. This guy, that's not really his character.
I'm telling you what this guy's like.
That doesn't really resonate with who this guy is, just as a person and where his morals lie. But I could definitely see that being a thing. So
Anyway, it makes me. I guess you got started thinking about this contractors me
Yeah.
off, but there's a lot of commercial contractors that work that way,
Right.
That they're almost like the production builders who it's a game. It's a money game. And so, he's got his margin, right, that he wants to make from these jobs. And he just kind of, I'll make that margin and go on down the road. Yeah. And he kind of likes being a builder because it doesn't require a lot of his time. Like there's a lot of builders who play golf because they can, right? They go visit the job in the morning and done by 10, and they go out and they play golf till 2, run back by the job at the end of the day, and then they're done, right?
Yeah.
So
that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, there's if you don't care, right, and you don't want to do that, then
I'm imagining
that life is available.
Yeah,
I'm imagining you letting all your PMs go. And you're like, because you have like these sitting PMs at all these jobs who I work with, and like if they weren't there, I mean, there's a problem,
Yeah.
Like there's questions to be answered.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much. I like that thing so much that
what thing?
Having one superintendent for one job, that I almost don't want to take small jobs because it requires a superintendent running around to 3 or 4 different jobs or 5 different jobs.
Right.
And I've done that in the past. You don't have the same focus and attention on there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it just struggles.
Yeah, it's just
your mind can only do so much as a project manager.
100%.
Especially on these where there's heavy details.
Yeah.
Hardware, crazy stuff.
You want to talk about Richard's stuff?
Yeah.
Or is there more stuff we go through?
Well,
because we can keep talking about this and talk about Richard later.
I think part of it is important to hear about like Richard's stuff in this because we were talking about you have this vision for Richard of, go be a builder, in 10 years whenever your knees finally give out and and then you're saying, hey, I may actually not want to do the builder life. I may not want to ever manage a full home. So I think there's a fun dynamic there to just explore because, I think in a lot of aspects, there probably is a happy medium of just being a manager over a crew of subs or a couple of crews of subs in a way where your company could reach out to Richard's company and say, hey, we need a crew of guys that you've trained up, that you trust to come to our site to do whatever. And he bids out that job and just bids the jobs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I don't care whether he ever becomes a builder or not. I just my comment was that
it's a natural progression.
It's a natural progression. And, he's 34 now. When he's 44 or 50, right, you just don't have the strength to pick up a piece, 3/4 inch piece of plywood and haul it up a stair. You can do it, but it's you go home at night, it hurts more. And so there's either he has to grow in a thing where he has a team of guys that he can manage, right? He's no longer doing it. He's solving the problem still, but he's not managing them day to day, or he's not doing the work himself, or he begins to take on jobs where the customer says, you're doing such a good job. Will you also do this? Will you also do this? And you end up picking up other work. And all of a sudden you are a builder, you are a GC or contractor because you're being asked to do a lot of different stuff. So it's just, and I think as we talk about just kind of what makes a good builder, I think you would be a good builder, okay, because you've seen enough. You understand what quality is. You understand. I think you've got a good relationship with the clients. They trust you. They like you. That's a big deal. And so you are already developing that level of trust that will or can lead to something where you could progress into that. Mm-hmm. Whether you wanted to or not. I think that opportunity is going to be there for you.
Sure. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Is that fun? Does that sound interesting to you?
I don't know. I would like to shadow you one day and see what you do. I don't know if that's accurate, though, because that's not what I would be doing. Like going to look at all these jobs. But I don't know. I just don't have, experience building. Okay, here's a set of plans. I don't know the first thing to do. Call
I think that
excavation company to prep the site. Is that it? That's a guess. right?
Good guess. Seems right.
Is there,
Talk to the city first.
do I call the city?
You got
or-
to survey it. You got to, you got to permit. You got to get a survey. They got to mark your corners so you know where you're going to dig. Then, they come out and survey it. Then the form board company comes out and sets up the form boards so that all the corners are set. And then the concrete person comes out. Well, then the excavator, depending on what you're doing, maybe drilling piers. But anyway, it's just.
There's a lot of stuff that, I don't even know if I want to know.
It does bring in a whole new world of things to
Well, building a house from the ground up is a little bit different than, say, you're at one of our jobs and they say, we've been thinking about redoing this bathroom in here. Can you help us do that? And you're like, what do you mean? They go, well, I don't know. Do you know some plumbers we could talk to, or do you know a tile person, or and they say, and you go, yeah, I know a guy. Well, can you just do it, right? So you don't have to figure out how to
So instead,
do the
you
survey.
basically talk to the plumber guy and say,
exactly.
how much is it going to cost to get you out here? And then
You go,
like,
yeah, well, let me talk to him for you. And then over the next few days, as the plumber comes by the job, you go, hey, the plumber, they want to just look at that. What would it cost to do that? And then the tile guy comes by a few days later, and you're like, hey, look at this thing for me. And then you go back
See,
to the
I don't
homeowner.
know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to manage people.
Yeah, well,
I think I will. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think I want to just be artistic in putting the stuff together. That's where I find joy. And I think life's too short to manage people. I don't want to die and be or get to the end of my life and be like, I managed a lot of people. I want to look at my life and be like, well, I had fun. I listened to one of the big things I like to do is listen to podcasts or music while I work. Mm-hmm. It's just this. It's fun. It's truly fun. And hearing about managing people, I'm just like, I mean, I can do it. I can do it.
No.
Definitely do it.
I mean, that goes to something we were saying earlier about, do the things that are comfortable and easy for you.
Yeah.
It's just
quit writing with your left hand.
It's just when you're 50, right, and or 60.
I know that there's a clock ticking on me. Yeah.
There is a little bit. I mean, Stuart, who's one of our project managers, he was a framer for. I mean, he's 52 or 53 now.
No, he was a framer for a while.
For a long time,
yeah,
into his 40s. And so, and obviously very good at it. And I approached him about being a project manager for us. But I'm not sure he was sitting there going, yeah, I haven't talked to him about that, but I don't remember him saying, yeah, I was looking for a way out. I didn't know how I was going to do it. He didn't, he enjoyed what he did. He loved what he did. Right. And for him, it's not managing people; it's relationships, right? He loves these relationships. He's building with these, team of people and working together to get something done. So, anyway,
yeah, it could go either way, really.
Yeah,
I'm not committing to this life of just.
You have to decide now.
Being on the tools.
So, to wrap it up, to be a good builder, right? That's what the
heart. Yeah,
the heart of it. It's just. I think what I come away with is that there's a lot of variables, and for me, it's something different than what somebody else is going to care about and do. And so,
can I ask a final question to close out these things? Because I think, Richard, you haven't worked for many builders. Mm-hmm. Maybe you've heard horror stories, so I want to hear from you. But what makes a bad builder? Both you guys.
I think it's the opposite of the good list.
Yeah.
Incompetent, just non-communicative.
Doesn't do what he says he's going to do.
Yeah, doesn't care. Yeah. Is a business, not even a businessman. Businessmen care, but just wants the money. Just a scummy scumbag.
Yeah. My hope in this was to find something other than the opposite, because I figured that was a... Yeah, but given, but I didn't know if there was a specific also this.
Well, I mean, if you think about the consequences of him not knowing what he's doing, right, and bringing the subs in the wrong order, or not when he did his bid, he didn't realize that you had to paint on top of the woodwork, and he's just like, you mean I got to paint it, right? And so that competency shows up and makes him a bad builder because he's causing all kinds of problems, and he's not, and then. He doesn't do what he says he's going to do because then he gets trapped. He goes, well, I only bid this much for that job, and this is already going to cost me. What do I do now? Right. And so then he starts lying, right? And then he starts, going to look for another job so he can get a deposit so he can finish this job, right? And so, anyway, it's just.
This made me think of something. It was an architect. We'll bleep the name, but you'll know it. We'll really have to bleep it. This.
Yeah.
He was. I showed up with the Windsor bag of the moldings, and he's like this architect, and I just brought out this bag and like laid it out, and he's like, well, what do you want me to do with this? And he like grabbed him and like kind of threw him at me. He's like, well, put something together. And I was like, what the like. And then like the project manager like came over and saw that and like kind of checked him a little bit.
Yeah.
And was like, hey, we'll figure this out. And this is before I even knew of you. This is like I didn't know how to put anything together. I was just like, I mean, this is the crown. It goes at the top. He's talking about these multiple piece buildups. I don't know at the time, So in the Windsor catalog, there's examples of how they're put together, like the pieces. So I was like, well, I mean, to put something together, like we could do this, and he's just like not having it. He's just this like.
I can't remember who this is.
He's like half of that firm.
I guess I don't know that firm.
Maybe look him up, see what.
Yeah, okay.
But later on, so that's like one day, and then maybe a week later, I've got these Windsor boards, and they're like tongue and groove. I think it was the 1x8 tongue and groove, and he came out there. It was on this porch lid, and he's like, if you mess this up, we're not paying for it again, and it's coming out of your check, so you better do it right. And I was just like, me and John just kind of like looked at each other, because I'm like, I don't know what to say,
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay. I just looked at him and said, okay. And like, to me, that was like garbage. That wasn't the builder. The builder was actually fine. The project manager. Yeah, the builder was Coates Homes, and the client hired that guy.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was just like, that was the worst experience I had with that. But it was an architect.
Yeah, jeez.
It was just like, freaking jerk,
Yeah.
Like, why are you so disrespectful like that? I think now, like, if he would have told me something now, I would have gone down way different.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
What would you have done differently?
What would you have done differently?
I think I would have rebuked him, like, sharply.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, hold on a minute. Like, hold on. First of all, show me some respect.
Yeah.
Like, at the time, I was just like, I think I was just so new to, like, being in that building world at that time.
Yeah.
Like, that was the only other builder I worked for before I came here.
Probably
like,
also so taken aback by that, because there's.
Yeah. I was like, is this how it is? This sucks. My homeowners were cool.
Yeah.
They bought us lunch and gave us tips and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a whole different world. But it was. So that was a bad experience in my opinion.
No, that's a great bad experience.
Oh, he got fired because I actually said, this is all this rabbit trail, but I told the homeowner what it was that homeowner, we worked for her.
Oh, prior,
and she requested that Coates Homes reach out to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Me, and then I have tons of videos on her house too, and out in Dallas. But I told her husband, hey, I can't deal with this. He kept doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he kept being a jerk. I was like, hey, I can't deal with him being disrespectful. It's just no. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
And then he was real upset. He chased the stair guy off too. This
the guy
architect.
did? Yeah.
He was just like just screwing up the whole thing because he was just flying off the handle at people. And
so that's respect.
and then that homeowner called me back and said, hey, Richard, I let Alex go. Do you want to come back and do this? And this is right when we started the Staub house with you. And I was like, wow, I'm in something now.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was that was bad.
That is not a great experience. On the flip side of that, what makes a bad sub? Same kind of deal? Same kind of...
I guess probably saying they can do more than they really can, because you go out on the limb. For us, we're putting our name on their work, and so especially if it's a new sub, we can't trust them. We don't know what they can do. They can make us look really bad. So if they say they can do stuff, and we've had guys that that act like they're trim carpenters.
I was going to tell you something about that guy after this,
but they don't they can't, right? And they can't execute. They don't have the skill set or the work effort or the, and then you're just bugged because you've wasted time and you wasted money, and he hasn't done things right. Now you got to get someone else. And so that's probably just, come in with the level of skill that you can back up.
Yeah.
And don't sit there and tell me, what you think you want to hear. What do you think I want to hear?
Yeah, I think a thing that I think you want to hear is how fast I can do it. And I think there's a tendency to think you can move faster than you can as a subcontractor.
Yeah. I think what I want to know is how long it's going to take. I don't care if you're fast, whether you're fast. I just I'm trying to build a schedule.
Yeah.
And so are you a week or are you 3 weeks? And I'm not telling you I need you done in a week. I might say that, but I typically, if we're at the beginning of a job, I'd say, I just need to know. But because our whole deal is we're trying to be on budget, on schedule, and that's really hard to do with our clients.
Yeah.
And so
I remember at the Staub house towards the end, what you thought I think was more towards the end than what I had in my mind. You were like, hey, how much longer do you think? And I wasn't really that comfortable with you at the time. I was just like, you were like, what do you think? Like another 2 weeks? And I was like, I kind of laughed, and you were just like, and I was like, oh crap, that wasn't a joke. I mean, we could try for 2 weeks. Yeah. You were like, I don't know, serious mode. But like that meeting I was telling you about yesterday, same question. This guy we were talking about, he's like, how long is this going to take you guys? And I was like, 6 to 8 months. And I thought that was going to be like, like a deal breaker type thing. And he's like, yeah, that seems about right. Yeah. So this other bid that I'm working on.
We had a bad hire recently. And it seems like, I think a lot of it was we were really trying to convince the guy, like, yo, come work for us. No, it's going to be really good. No, we'll figure it out. We'll make it happen. And I think, now when we're going through this hiring process, we're like really trying to make sure that everyone's skill set is going to align with what we're trying to do. And it just is going to make it better for everyone. And so we just had to tell a girl who we're really close with, who, was actually one of our students first, and then was one of our leaders. And then she applied to be in the position, and we were like, all right, this is going to be amazing. We interviewed her, and we're like, oh, man, her skill set just isn't what we need. And so when we were talking to her, it was like a really hard conversation, but it was really good because at the same time I was telling her, hey, we're not going to offer you this job that you really want. We were also saying like, but this is going to be actually really good for you because it's not going to be something that, you want to do, and you're going to be drained at the end of this. You're going to hate life, like all these things. And it seems like it's very similar in like the sub relationship where it's like, hey, tell me exactly what you can do. And then if you tell me what you can do and you perform really well in that, amazing. But I don't want to hire you for something that you're going to be trying to figure out what's going on. You're going to be racking your head. You're going to like stick with what you know. But if you're comfortable to go out on a limb and try something new, just say, hey, I've never done this before, but I'm willing to try. And then it's like, okay, great, But it's good expectations up on the front end.
Yep.
Which then will not create for hey, we need to part ways. This is not going well, which just sucks on the back end,
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, well, cool. Well, thank you guys. I took a lot of good notes there for future, just in case I wanted to go into building or subcontracting ever. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening. And if you've got any other things that we missed on what makes a good builder and what makes a good subcontractor, let us know in the comments. We would love to see it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.